Hello and welcome to episode 127 of PubShorts. It's called Policy of Truth. We discuss truth and related matters in this episode. My name is Dr. KK, the innovation officer at Trinka, and I have with me the truth sayer himself, Tony O'Rourke. Hi, Tony.
I've been called many things. I think soothsayer is not one of them. But hello, everyone. I'm Tony O'Rourke. Welcome to PubShorts. I'm Vice President for Partnerships here in Nargo. If you're a first-time visitor to PubShorts, this is a regular video podcast that KK and I record where we talk about aspects, stories in the press or stories online relating to the world of academic publishing, whether it's research policy, research funding, technology, you name it, we'll get around to talking about it. And we like to give each episode a theme, and we like to link that theme to a song. And this episode is no different. This episode is called The Policy of Truth. Now, that for those of you who like 80s, 90s music, Policy of Truth is a song by Depeche Mode from I think 1989 and 1990. And the song's warning about facing consequences fits this week's stories perfectly, with governments racing to regulate AI, universities rethinking the process of examining their students, and AI and workers learning that there's always a cost to how we use new technology and how we use these systems.
Beautiful, Tony. You summarized this episode so well. So moving on to the moving on to the first story, it is of nations wanting to control or regulate AI, which is concerning. I mean, in our sort of show meeting, production meeting, you said that this is concerning. Oh my God, I've done something funny with my screen share, but I've brought it back. All right, so we have a news explainer from Nature titled "China wants to lead the world on AI regulation." So that's very interesting when I read this. So China apparently wants to establish an international body called the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization. WICO for AI governance, and this contrasts with the US's more deregulation phased approach. China has already implemented specific AI regulations through enforcement. Uh, uh, though the enforcement of these regulations can be lenient, the European Union has a risk-based approach, while the UK's legislation is, is slack in the sense it is taking longer than expected.
Yeah.
Globally, there's little binding AI regulation, with the Council of Europe's convention being a notable exception. So, WICO's exact function is unclear, but it could help countries align on AI governance frameworks. And China's motivation is partly commercial, aiming to set global standards for its AI products, which is interesting. It also serves a diplomatic purpose, positioning China as a leader of the global south. Potential models for global AI governance include those similar to nuclear energy or aviation regulation. That's an interesting analogy, I thought. Now,
Mm.
finally, how AI's unique characteristics like its general purpose nature and rapid evolution pose challenges to existing models. Creating a global agreement is difficult due to the perceived AI race between the US and China. Very interesting, sort of many points, at least from my learning point of view. What are your thoughts? I mean, why did you think that this is concerning?
Uh, Only broadly when you see that China wants to lead the world on AI regulation. I mean, whether we like it or not, there is quite a lot of influence at a political level
Mm-hmm.
in what happens to China. We can't. It's I think it's a fact, and I would hope that political influence wouldn't necessarily be transferred into an international setting in a regulated AI model. So no, I'm not concerned, but I think we should be cautious in terms of any particular country, not just the China, wanting to be at the forefront. It should be a global cooperation. There should be equal input from the EU, from China, from the US, from the global South, in terms of how the regulation should happen,
Uh,
and not be driven by one country.
Right. I sort of when I heard that sentence about China wanting to be a representative of the global South, I've stopped associating China with being involved in global South because of how it leads the research output sort of a metric. It's been a leader for many years now. So that from that point of view, do you also sort of see that in the sense China is probably different from the global South? as
Yeah,
a.
I mean, I know one of the measures we used to have years ago was, when we were thinking about pricing for different markets, was how we price in China. The differential pricing for different markets for certain types of electronic content. And one of the rankings that we would consider would be the World Bank ranking of countries.
Mm-hmm.
And China always came up as a poor or low middle income country. It was never a high income. Therefore, it should have been categorized in one particular way. But it was a research rich market. It was spending more on research than most of these countries combined. So I would err on the side of caution.
All right. Moving on to the next story. Interesting from the New York Times. College students flock to a new major, artificial intelligence. So the title is very clear. Many universities, Tony, are launching new AI majors, minors, and programs. This surge is driven by the popularity of tools like ChatGPT and significant investment from tech companies. So one example given is MIT's Artificial Intelligence and Decision Making major, which is now their second most popular undergraduate program. And students are drawn to AI majors because they see them as timely and potentially uh, offering more job opportunities. So this comes
Yeah.
as computer science enrollment has seen a decline, with some graduates facing job market challenges. So the trend overall suggests a move towards more specialized computing degrees, which is fair. I mean, you everybody sort of needs to be at a certain level of sort of expertise with artificial intelligence, but the specialists obviously will get the better positions. So this is not surprising, but have you seen such a trend in the UK as well?
Well, there are specialist AI courses at the universities in the UK. Absolutely, there has to be. I mean, the universities should reflect the needs of future employers and research, of course.
Hmm.
So yes, there are universities that are bringing in new courses like this, and as well as in Europe.
Right. So interesting enough, the next story, which I think caused the most amount of sort of reaction on LinkedIn when I post about it, is also related to universities and institutions and AI. But this is the Nature comment called "Why Universities Need to Radically Rethink Exams in the Age of AI." So let me read my notes and I'll pass it on over to you. So AI used by students is widespread, with most using it for coursework. Traditional essays are becoming less valuable as AI can produce high quality writing, and which is very difficult to detect as well. As the article mentions, AI detection tools are unreliable, and universities need new assessment methods and not just quick fixes. So, conversation based assessments enhanced by AI offer a way to gauge understanding, and AI can support personalized learning through dialogue as well. And continuous assessment rather than high stakes exams is a better approach, as per the article, and AI can
Yeah,
help track students' progress over time for continuous assessments. Now, universities, it says the article recommends, universities should focus on higher order skills like creativity and collaborations, where AI can be a partner, and improving AI literacy for both educators and students is crucial. So,
yeah.
I agree with most of the points in the article, and I also feel that it's we are about 30 years or 3 decades late into changing the way that we evaluate our students, especially from an Indian point of view, where rote learning is still the norm, and with AI obviously things are going to be even worse. So when I wrote about it, a lot of people from diverse sort of backgrounds wrote an agreement about how they also feel that AI, in the ecosystem involving AI and education, things need to change, especially the evaluation methods. So what are your thoughts on it, Tony?
Well, let's leave AI to one side just for 1 second. Even within an educational perspective, the way different countries learn varies hugely. I mean, I had the benefit of having an international education background. So I did my first degree at a university in Germany. And on that course, we had German students, we had French students, we had UK students.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we learned, the way a German professor will, for example, introduce a program,
Mm-hmm.
or a French professor will introduce a program, and their expectations of what the students will do varies massively. So when those French and German students came to the UK, and they went from a kind of a really almost like a strict lecture system, just lecture, 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 and then go away, write the notes, and then you get tested at the end of the year, to much more of an engaged tutorial system where there's much more discussion, there's much more debate in the UK, certainly from my experience of learning. Initially, they struggled, but at the end of the course, it was almost universal. There was the preference, particularly with the German students, where they said, "Look, this style of learning, it's not just learning by rote, but you understood it more, you could appreciate it more, and actually you could apply it more because we were discussing practically how to use these tools." So in AI, this is no different. I do think in AI, the essay, I shouldn't really say this, but I think the essay is probably a thing of the past because, as you say, you can use a Gemini or a Chat GPT or whatever to generate the essay. It doesn't prove anything. What needs to be tested is the application of that knowledge. You know, in terms of continuous assessment, in terms of conversations, in terms of practical applications, and that's the real proof of the knowledge. If you're studying medicine today, I've never studied medicine. If you're studying medicine today, it's not just about reading the books and understanding the prognosis and diagnosis and the symptoms, etc. It's going to be about how you use the technology that's available to you to give the best possible outcomes.
Yeah,
and that can only be demonstrated into one-to-one engagement.
Yes, so this article also touches on the fact that I guess, education literacy, also in terms of how students need to be educated on how to use AI as an ally, as an assistant, not necessarily to replace their actual work, because they need to learn as well. So that touches on many of the things that we discuss as part of the responsible AI campaign by Nago.
Absolutely.
And
that's a very good point, KK, in terms of, I think we're in this kind of buffer zone at the moment where AI has only really emerged in an academic setting in the last 3 to 5 years, really. I mean, I'm sure it's been, from a computer science perspective, it's there for a lot longer, but the everyday application has been in the last 3 to 5 years. So what you find is universities are now trying to play catch up and saying, well, if AI is going to be used and it's a matter of fact and it's a fact of life, how do we determine AI is being used fairly and responsibly? So as you rightly said, we have this DocuMark service where we give universities the means to be able to assess any given document in terms of how that document's been created, how much of it's been generated by AI, how much of it's been handwritten or typed in by hand, how much of it's been cut and pasted from another source, so that if there are rules about the use of AI, in the same way there are rules about plagiarism, for example, then there should be a way of tracking that.
Excellent. So where can universities or institutions who are interested in probably exploring what DocuMark could offer, how can they find out more about it?
No, it's very easy. You just go to the inago.com website and search for DocuMark and you'll find all sorts of information on there.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. And I'll switch back to our normal news article rundown. So the next one is another Nature news article called AI is saving time and money in research, but at what cost? So this one, this is related to the next article, which is a new research from OpenAI, but I'll just go through this in terms of contextualizing AI in research. So we are all aware, like everybody's aware, that researchers are using AI tools, and so we have had percentages. So a recent survey, Tony, as per this article, showed that 62% of researchers use AI for research and publication tasks, and early career scientists and those in the physical sciences are more likely to use AI, which is fair because young as well as those who generally are more familiar with technology. AI is used for writing, editing, translations, and summarizing research. All these are very valid applications, and AI improves efficiency, quantity, and the quality of work. I mean, it should at least. For example, in astronomy, AI helps process large data sets and identify celestial objects. AI can also be used for educational purposes. For example, simulations of the universe. And studies suggest AI users publish more, get more citations, and become leaders in their respective fields. But, that's also probably because of the bias towards citing AI-related research to begin with. But these are the good things about AI. But AI might reduce scientific diversity by accelerating work in data-rich fields, which is a fair concern. And I honestly hadn't thought of this in terms of AI being way more effective. I know that this is the truth, but I did not think about the fact that this could have a sort of a downstream effect on having data-rich fields getting more citations and more research to begin with. So what are some of the concerns about the AI that the article lists? Hallucinations, that is errors, data security related concerns, ethics, and a lack of transparency. So some researchers and some people who are involved in research worry that AI can lead to laziness and lack of understanding of the underlying principle, which is
Yeah.
touching on what we just discussed in terms of
And that's
evaluate.
the fundamental issue, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not so much using the tools that are available to you. We've all used tools, whether it's a calculator, a logbook, a slide rule, whatever that tool, whatever that point in history was. We've used tools to help us in our learning, in our research, in our teaching, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you still had to be, and you still had to master the topic. You still had to understand the topic,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that potentially the role that AI is playing in some of these in teaching and learning means that it can lead to laziness. It can lead to a lack of understanding of underlying principles. So unless you've got some other way of validating those principles or just checking the understanding of those principles,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start to see a loss of expertise,
Mm. And
of
this
human expertise at least.
the last quote in the article sort of sums up in terms of the need for critical evaluation of AI outputs. So we need to enthusiastically embrace AI, but treat the results at the outputs with a sort of skepticism that we should treat all scientific results when they're presented.
Absolutely.
That's a
The
very
research needs to be validated.
yeah, and similarly, AI outputs need to be validated, which is also part of the responsible AI campaign. As a researcher, you're responsible for everything that you sort of write into a manuscript that you submit to a journal, and
And we've seen examples ourselves, KK. We've seen some great research papers, but the
Mhm.
number of times we also see hallucinate references, it's quite scary.
Right, right. And interestingly, when you mentioned this tool, that we've always been using AI tools. So you remember that I posted about AI on LinkedIn. So one comment was about the fact that the the concerns related to AI slop being generated are
Yeah.
nothing new, in the sense that we've always had tools, and we've always, with even without AI, humans, whenever humans could find sort of a faster, easier way to do whatever they might want to do, that has resulted in a quality deterioration if they are not paying attention. The producers are not paying attention. So
Well, is it a deterioration, or is it just more slop?
yeah,
There's still the same number of good papers, but
no,
they're
no
just more slop that you have to screen before you get to the good papers.
well, maybe I was not clear. So the one of the points that I was trying to make was that AI slop is a reality in 2025, in late 2025 as well. Even when you are trying to be vigilant, and so that's disappointing. And the response was that AI is still doing a lot of good work, and that is being sort of not focused on. And the fact that any tool can be used to create, let's say, sloppy work is still a thing, and we should not forget that. That was a sort of argument where somebody was trying to make. This was on Blue
Okay.
Sky. Interesting enough, I've started posting on Blue Sky, and I've got very interesting sort of responses to some of the stories that we talk about here. So interesting, in the context of AI and in the context of education and research. Now, I said there was another story related to a Chat GPT survey. So this one is published on CNET, and it's titled "AI Saves Workers Less Than an Hour Each Day." A new open AI report shows. So AI is being adopted rapidly, as we all know, including all sorts of fields, and workers are saving about 40 to 60 minutes per day on average when using AI tools. So remember that this comes from a survey done by OpenAI. So keep that in mind. So, what is interesting is that this is not the massive productivity boost that many people expected, but it's still a benefit. And this report surveyed 9,000 workers and used data from over 1 million business customers. So, many workers feel AI improves the speed and quality of their work, and AI is helping people to complete tasks that they could not before. And some specific tasks that are sped up include IT troubleshooting, coding, and campaign creation for marketing, that is. So there's a gap, Tony, between heavy AI users, they're called frontier users, and average users. So the heavy
Yeah.
users save more time, but even though they only save about 2 hours per day, so that's still sort of I mean, I think that, look, 2 hours per day saving is a lot, but you expect AI to have saved you even more. I mean, that's a
Well,
unrealistic expectation.
that's also how much time we spend sitting in front of our computers. If our job is only sitting in front of our computers creating
Yes.
content, generating content, then you'd expect AI to save more time. If our job requires engaging with people, engaging with customers, engaging with partners, whatever it might be, engaging with your sort of production distribution chain. That's not about AI, is it? That's about the human interface. So I think yeah, I think it's encouraging. I think it's encouraging this. It's not, the 75-80% time savings that maybe we would have expected beforehand, that it is measured.
Hmm.
I think we'll see it will increase also as these tools are being used more and more in different applications. But no, I don't find that discouraging particularly at all. I think it just reflects how we work.
So how many? What do you think AI has saved you per day, other in the last, let's say, 6 months or so?
I'm probably not a good person to ask. I think at best it's probably saved me. Well, okay. First of all, let me rephrase that question. How much time do I spend talking about AI
Uh-huh.
with partners, with customers? Probably 90% of my time is spent talking about AI related services and tools. How much does AI save me? Um, well, I still work the same number of hours. I feel I'm as productive or more productive than maybe I was 5 years ago. I don't think it's a particularly high that percentage at all. I know it's different for you because you do a lot of work
Yeah, yeah. I
around
mean,
innovation.
so I consider myself to be a frontier user, and I think it is more than 2 hours. I mean, when I look at the amount of things that I'm able to do, not just for work, but also for the creative things that I'm doing, it is incredible how much more I have been able to do, even though the hours in the day remain the same. My, as you rightly said, Tony, we're all sort of living our same lives. It's just that when AI sort of saves time and creates sort of like gaps for you, you tend to fill it with something else. From that point of view, I think it is
Yeah,
helping me a lot.
exactly.
Yeah. All
I
right.
mean, I'll tell you one particular use case. One of my sons is a teacher,
Mhm.
and he has to prepare coursework, he has to prepare course material, and he doesn't use it exclusively, but every so often he needs to produce some course material. He showed me an infographic that he produced recently, for example, which he used. I don't know what he used, Grok or something, to produce this AI, this image, and it was fabulous. And it's something he could have done himself. Probably would have taken him 3 to 4 hours.
Mhm.
It took that particular AI tool less than a couple of minutes.
Excellent. I mean, Ethan Mollick has been saying that Notebook LM with Nano Banana is creating better PowerPoint slides than PowerPoint could ever, as well as Microsoft and Claude and
Well, there we
Gemini.
are. There we are.
All the other people who are chasing the PowerPoint, automation thing, they are going the wrong path, is what he's saying. But we'll talk about that in
Well,
another.
it's not about it's not just about the generation of the content. It's about the dissemination. It's about the
Mm.
understanding of the content. That's the real thing. How we get to the point of creating content is it's not neither here nor there. It is, of course, it's important. It demonstrates our understanding, but it's how we apply it. That's the real measure. And if we can save time in getting to the point where we can start to
Mhm.
apply those learnings, then good.
Right, Tony, ready for quick hits? They're surprisingly from AI.
Really, good lord.
Yeah, so this one from Bloomberg.com. DeepSeek debuts new AI models to rival Google and OpenAI. So these models offer enhanced capabilities for reasoning and autonomous action. And the new version, DeepSeek version 3.2 EXP, as well as 3.2 itself, match the performance of OpenAI GPT-5 on certain benchmarks. So this is also not surprising at all. But we have not had some DeepSeek news for a while. Any thoughts?
No, no, I'm not particularly surprised that DeepSeek is catching up and matching
Mhm.
ChatGPT at all. It's extremely popular in China for good reason.
Yeah, and in terms of AI brands that we have not had much news about is Mistral. So wait, I think I jumped to the wrong story. Wait, let me see if I have opened it. I think I may not have opened it. Yeah. So this one, it's introducing Mistral 3. So Mistral announced Mistral 3. It's a new family of open source and multimodal language models. Includes small, dense models, 14 billion parameters, 8 billion parameters, and 3 billion parameters, and a large, sparse mixture of experts model called Mistral Large 3. So Mistral, I think I have experimented with it maybe a couple of years ago, and since then we've been using other models. So Mistral Large 3 is positioned as a frontier model, performing well on general prompts and excelling in multilingual tasks. It ranks highly on the LMA Arena leaderboard for open source models. And Mistral 3 series, the 3 billion, 8 billion, and 14 billion parameters ones, offer strong performance to cost ratios for edge and local use cases. And increasingly, Tony, if you probably have had this conversation, local models are very useful for
Yeah,
processing content which is sensitive, intellectual
yeah,
copyrighted content. So
yeah, yeah.
publishers really like that. So these are wonderful sort of new models. I've been. Have you used Mistral Chat, late Chat Mistral at all?
I haven't. No, have you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to use it. I mean, all of these 5 or 6 things are sort of open browser tabs. But
Yeah.
after discovering Claude, Sonnet 4.5, and Opus, after subscribing to the Pro plan, I feel all the other models are lacking in something. And Google's Notebook LM is the one outlier because it does things that nothing else could ever do. So Mistral is gone to the sort of a back burner position in my AI sort of chat list.
But do you think this will pull it back up?
It could, but this is I'm more interested in the Ministral model, the small models which can be locally deployed, especially that is even on a small laptop, AI-enabled laptop. I think you can install it. But this mixture of experts model could be a sort of a very interesting model to consider when you're looking at peer review related workflows because you need
Mm,
that kind of expertise. All right,
interesting.
moving on to OpenAI news. I hope that this is the right tab. Yeah, OpenAI declares code red as Google catches up in AI race. So we've got like a competitor sort of announcements. So OpenAI's announcement is because Google is catching up on the AI race, and Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, sent a memo about this. He wants to respond. Sorry, he wants to improve ChatGPT's speed, reliability, and personalization. OpenAI is delaying other projects to focus on ChatGPT, and Google is a major competitor, having also declared code red after ChatGPT's launch. Google's AI like Nano, Banana, and Gemini 3 are performing really well, and I just mentioned that people in the publishing industry, in the STM publishing industry, are increasingly sort of like moving from ChatGPT to Gemini and Nano, Banana for for example, content creation purpose, as I discussed. Ethan Mollick has experience and written about it in his latest blog. Any thoughts, Tony, about OpenAI's position? Are you still
Uh,
a ChatGPT first user?
uh, uh, if I'm honest, no, I'm not. I think I'm probably a Gemini user more than anything else now,
Interesting.
only because it's so accessible via my browser. No, the only thing I was going to say about this particular story is, this is a fiercely competitive space.
Mm-hmm.
And often stories like this you wouldn't expect to see in the press.
Right.
There's a company's reaction. You'd expect to see the reaction once they'd made their reaction, once they'd actually produced something in response to, some threat or some new challenge. But to actually go out and say, okay, code red, and we're gonna change how we do things so openly, I think it's quite unusual.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting sort of position to take.
Yeah, and if you're wondering what is the competition, how is it heating up? So OpenAI is preparing to stuff ads into ChatGPT as per a code analysis by somebody. So that's concerning in my opinion. I mean, I do not want to see too many ads because I'm already paying for it. But I also understand that if for a free user, non-paid user, maybe ads are the only solution for it. Any thoughts on
Yeah, well,
ads?
I mean that I was sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
KK. That for me, the surprise is that it's taken up until now
Mm.
before the ad model's actually been flagged and discussed. I mean, look how Google makes its money. I
Right.
mean, and rightly so as well. It provides a service, provides a valuable service. These AI tools like OpenAI, like ChatGPT, are no different.
Yep. A couple of stories more. The first one is Google is experimentally replacing news headlines with AI clickbait nonsense. So obviously it's a
Yeah,
critical view. Have you seen this on your Galaxy
I
flip?
haven't.
So if you look at the Google, the far left home screen, if you have that enabled, there are two ways. One is Google, one is I think Samsung's own Galaxy sort of a news. If you switch to the Google one, you'll see this kind of a thing a lot. And this is again another sort of Google's experimentation to see if they can generate more ad revenue, which is disappointing to be fair. But at the same time, this is a reality. All the companies have to put in ads. And finally, we have DeepSeek self-correcting AI model aces through maths proofs. So the model is called DeepSeek Math V2. We just discussed another DeepSeek model. It performed as well as top human students in tough competitions like the Putnam and IMO. This is a self-correcting AI, which means that it can find and fix its own mistakes, and it can solve without like looking at other resources. It uses this chain of thought reasoning kind of a thing to solve these things, and so it's arriving at these conclusions by itself, which is a step towards what we refer to as artificial general. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what do you think of that?
I think as you say, it's another step towards AGI.
Yep.
Again, with as long as there are guide rails there in place, human guide rails in place to manage and monitor it.
Right. I think there was a brief connection issue, but then we are already at the end of our episode. So this was the policy of truth, episode 127 of PubShorts. And before we started this episode, Tony, we were talking about radio stations, and I'm very curious. I'll start this with the question: have you, when you were in Germany to study, did you discover radio stations that still sort of live with you?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. So when I lived in Germany,
Yeah.
which was in the early '80s, of course, it's all pre-internet. We were all living in caves and had clubs. Um, there were. It was a very radio was very regional.
Mm-hmm.
It was about your local radio station within 20, 30 miles of where you lived. That would, and that became much more prevalent, much more prominent in my sort of everyday conversations than national radio in the UK ever did.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 20 years, though, that's changed. I do listen to quite a lot of internet radio, as was, and stations like KEXP, for example, which I think you're a fan of.
Yeah, I just discovered it because I used to listen to, in India, a satellite radio service called World Space, and there was a channel, alternative rock radio, called Bob, which I used to be a fan of in the early 2000s. So I just learned this weekend. Using Claude, would you believe it? That Bob was modeled on KEXP, and that's how I learned about the KEXP when I reached out to my friends like you. You have been big fans of it. You've discovered many artists. I got to know that
Absolutely, yeah.
Soundgarden was discovered by KEXP and all of that. So that's a lot. Anyway, if you don't have to be born in the 1980s to discover all the PubShorts episodes, which can be found where, Tony?
So before we talk about PubShorts, I'm just going to talk about something I'm actually quite sad about, but not necessarily going to do anything about. Was the fact that you were talking about where you discovered music. A lot of the music I discovered, particularly in the '90s, was through MTV.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Through things like and the fact that MTV no longer streams music or no longer plays music videos. I think that as a means of discovering an artist is quite sad. Anyway, sorry, I'll go back to your original question. Well, yes. So this is episode 127. If you'd like to see, I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see all previous 126 episodes of PubShorts, you just need to go to YouTube and to search for the Inago PubShorts playlist, where you can stream all previous 126 episodes. I encourage you to like or to make comments. If you don't like it, even if you do like it, please just leave some comments and give us ideas for future topics, and share this content with your colleagues.
Excellent. And you, I didn't realize this, but Tony, we might be actually letting people discover songs because of the songs that we select for our episodes. So that's interesting.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah. This is 127th song we've flagged so far. So I hope it's added to the royalties that Spotify pays to these artists because of some of the recommendations.
Yeah, Depeche Mode, thank us because you've got a lot of hits coming.
I'm still waiting for Dave Gann's letter. Yeah.
All right. With that, we bring this episode to an end. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
Take care. Bye-bye.